have seen behind your eyes, and there is nothing there. Sorry, I'm looking at myself at all times in the thing. I hope you can't tell. Cut that out. That didn't need to be there. Jesus lordy. Blow it up. Because I'm sick of seeing those stupid AI edits and liking them. I think I'm gonna die in this house. This is so fun. I love to talk. Hey, earlier this week, we watched Wuthering Heights. See, I thought this was going to be easy. I thought it was going to roll off the tongue, and it's kind of not. I have a 7-page script and a dream, and we're just going to get into it. I've spent the last couple of weeks watching endless video essays from other people who I love about why Wuthering Heights sucks ass. And disclaimer, I hardly know her. I haven't read the book, but I have watched like 10 video essays at this point recapping the plot. So I feel like I have enough understanding to give you my opinions on it. I'm not gonna retell the plot of the book or the movie, and I'm also gonna try not to like hit all the points that everybody else is hitting. I'm really gonna try and give my opinion and my experience of watching it, because it wasn't what I thought it was gonna be, but I have so many thoughts. Listen, genuinely, and I'm being really vulnerable here, I enjoyed the first half of the movie. Our friends came out from watching their own movie, and they were like, how's it going? And I said, I don't know if it's because I'm really high right now, but this is kind of a great movie. And listen, it all went downhill from there. Like, literally the moment that they came out, as soon as we kept watching, like, things just got worse. But the first half of the movie, it was fine. And I think part of that is, like, there's a reason that romantasy genres and these book talk tropes are so widespread and beloved, because they do work for people. It's this, like, formulaic love story where, you know, you get this fantasy of what love could be like. And I think that really compels people. And so this story of these, like, two children suffering through this terrible childhood and that are going through all this trauma together. And, you know, they're kind of, like, wild and they hate each other, and they have this, like, entanglement and this bond, and it slowly kind of develops into this, like, lust and sexual awakening. It's compelling. It works, at least for me. And listen, Jacob Elordi, really hot. My rewatch notes say Jesus Lordy, because there's this one scene where he's, like, shoveling hay and he's all sweaty and he looks like the whitewashed Jesus, guys. And isn't that poetic? Isn't that poetic? I loved it when he picked her up by the corset. That was hot and sexy. And listen, the mouth and eye covering scene, I thought the sexual tension and, like, the lead up and the build up was much more interesting than the sex itself. So that part of it worked for me. I did kind of like the romance. I was kind of rooting for them, and I felt the pain of, like, him leaving, and because I know how it ends, that she dies, whatever, and they never get to be together. The other thing that I really love is how beautiful these shots were. Like, I mean, we pirated it, because absolutely no way that I'm paying money to see this movie in a theater. So we watched it on Netflix, but, like, at this point it hasn't come out on streaming. So we're watching, like, a video cam recording of like a movie screen. Some crazy color grading going on. Like, sometimes it would be, like, normal, and then all of a sudden the saturation would just, like, ratchet up. And there was also, the whole entire movie, there was this, like, little blurry bar that would sort of, like, move around the screen, and then every now and then you got a big blurry bar at the bottom that had, like, letters in it. And then there was a couple times where, like, the bar was, like, going over somebody's eyebrows and they looked crazy. It was so funny. It really added to the experience. But the colors in this movie are so beautiful. Just, like, the way that the red is used and the contrast between so many, like, blues and cold grays and these, like, bright reds. It was gorgeous. And, like, because of this cam recording, it had this weird, like, it was fuzzy and, like, blurry at some points, but, like, mainly kind of in the background, like, where things would be darker, you lose, like, all the definition that I'm sure was present in the proper recording of it. But it gave it this very, like, 90s, early 2000s movie vibe, which I actually kind of really liked, and it really made it feel like it fits into that, like, Pride and Prejudice, all those, and, like, older adaptations of Wuthering Heights, like, that era of time, which was kind of interesting and special. But yeah, that has nothing to do with Emerald Fennel. That's all the genius of whoever filmed that on their phone in the middle of a movie theater. Yeah, so a lot of the sets I felt like they had this great mix of like period accurate historical, and then you get like these pops of red, like there's just like a red shadow on the wall because of the window, or like the floor is bright red, and so many of these shots, they just look like paintings. Like they're so beautiful. I would love a lookbook, a huge lookbook that's just like every shot of this movie, like shot by shot. I don't care about the plot, like I just want to look at it. It's so beautiful. And this is crazy, but there's this really great scene after the scene where Heathcliff gets whipped, which, like, can we talk about that? Because that was the most brutal scene in this whole movie, and that's wrong. Like, it shouldn't be that way. And yeah, that was kind of horrific. Like, I felt like I wanted to turn the movie off. But after that, there's this great scene where Kathy is, like, leaving the house, and she walks through the courtyard, and it's, like, all this, like, midnight cold grays, like, moonlight, whatever. And then as she's walking through the yard, she, like, moves into the barn or the stable. Where does Heathcliff live? It's the stable. So she walks into the stable, and, like, there's just this, like, vibrant red light. I feel like it breaks the fourth wall. Like, it feels like you're on a set in this beautiful, like, it feels like an intentional thing. I don't know if it is, but it feels like she's kind of walking onto a stage or into a stage light. Like, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It actually, I feel like, really conjures, like, 80s dark fantasy, which is great because I'm sick of seeing those stupid AI edits and liking them. I don't want to like that. I like that vibe. And I feel like this movie, the, like, combination of the fuzziness and the colors and the darkness of it all, it kind of, like, came together, and it was really great. And there's so much whimsy in this movie. Like, putting aside literally everything else about it, visually, in the sets and the costuming, there's so much whimsy and weirdness, and it's, like, mixing together at times, and sometimes it really, really works. And, like, I'm thinking of, like, the first time you meet the Lintons, and they're, like, in the garden, and there's this amazing shot through a circle in the hedge, and it looks like something out of Alice in Wonderland. All the scenes after she gets married when she's with the Lintons, and the dollhouse, and there's, like, the long table of food, and the skin wall. Like, can we talk about the skin wall? There's a lot that does work. And one of the things that I think works, at least in my personal opinion, is the costumes. And I think what I'm realizing is that I'm a very, like, ooh, shapes and colors. I love the costumes. Like, there were some, don't get me wrong, there were some hideous things, like, whatever that negligee thing she was wearing that was, like, plastic. That cannot fly. Like, please. She looked like she was, like, a bouquet wrapped in plastic. And I don't like that vibe, okay? I don't like that vibe. So I liked a lot of the costumes, and I think what I liked about them is, again, those, like, bright colors and the really dramatic silhouettes. Like, there was so much, like, cinched waist, huge skirt, which, you know, she stands out. I mean, I'm talking about Kathy specifically, but she stands out so well against these, like, drab, the Wuthering Heights, desecrated, desolate, drab, you know. And a lot of it, like, it's random as hell. Like, they were just looking at it and they were like, huh, I like this. Yes. Like when she was walking in the moors with the white dress. Don't even. I feel like it's like a faint, translucent echo of, like, Poor Things, or even like a Wes Anderson color palette. Like, you get those, like, dopamine colors. Hey, maybe that's why. Like, it makes me happy. Okay, and then what I really, really loved was the score. Not, like, the Charlie XCX songs. Those were fine. They were, like, so on the nose, which kind of, like, threw me out of it. Don't even get me started on, I think I'm gonna die in this house. And she died in the house, bro. She died in the house. What can I say? Is Charlie XCX a genius? We will never know. So the score by Anthony Willis, wow, beautiful. I listened to it after the musical. In fact, after the musical, hey, let's not get carried away here. I'm actually gonna pull a song up. I can't listen to too much of it because it's gonna bring down the mood. But holy crap, the mix of the score and the visuals, it was so beautiful. There's so much beautiful string work, and it's just gorgeous. And I really think that that's what stuck out the most to me. The pairing of the visuals and the score, because there were so many of these, like, atmospheric, beautiful shots, plus this, like, beautiful music. Beautiful music, you know? It was just breathtaking, heartbreaking. Bars. And then I cannot forget my queen, Alison Oliver. Wow, diva. I didn't realize she was in Saltburn. I did watch Saltburn. I didn't recognize her. Wow, she's so funny. Holy crap. The very first time that Kathy sees them in the garden, Kathy, like, climbs up the wall, and she sees them in the garden, and Isabella's giving this genuine, earnest retelling of Romeo and Juliet.
And Juliet gets word of this, and she's absolutely devastated.
And it just reminded me that, like, she genuinely is coming across this for the first time. She's never read Romeo and Juliet. Also, upon my rewatch, I noticed that the first line she says is,
I actually believe that the nurse is the villain of the story because she allows this chaos to ensue, knowing that they're going to be doomed, and that there's going to be so much death. But I don't really like the nurse, actually.
That's some crazy foreshadowing, Emerald Fennel, and I don't like that. Anyway, she's telling the story. She stops telling the story. She kind of laughs, and she just looks over. I'm just going to play the scene. I can't recreate it.
Indeed not. Then I should have nowhere to put my ribbons.
We had to rewatch it like 5 times before we could keep going. It was so funny. And she got weird and freaky, and I didn't really like that turn for her character. But wow, what a performance. And now I get to complain. This is so fun. I love to talk. I love to talk. One thing about me is that I love to talk. I love to talk. I love talking. Oh boy. Oh boy. Are there a lot of things I did not enjoy? Well, yes. Okay? For the more surface level stuff, I had such a hard time with Margot Robbie's performance. Holy crap. And this is no hate to her. I don't think that it's her fault. And I was actually impressed at certain points, like, with her performance. Like, it was terrible, but somehow not because of her. It just feels really weird because in the book, I think they're supposed to be like 15, 16 or something when most of this goes down. And I know that in the movie they age them up, but it's really, really unclear what age she is. There's one point slightly after the Lintons get there where her dad is like, oh, she's well into spinsterhood or something, which is like mid to late 20s. So tell me why she's acting like a 12-year-old. I don't understand. And, like, Margot Robbie, beautiful woman. She looks like a beautiful 36-year-old woman, okay? She doesn't look like she's in her mid-20s. She definitely doesn't look like she's in her teens. And I don't think she's supposed to. But what's confusing me is, like, you know that she's supposed to be older, but she acts like she's 12. Every single time Heathcliff does something, she's like, my notes say, like, close your mouth, diva, because she's hitting the same 12-year-old, like, mouth open emote every single time anything happens. And it pisses me off, okay? Like, and I get that she's supposed to be maybe kind of, like, sheltered. She doesn't know a lot. But I think she knows to close her mouth. I think we can do that at least. I really wish that they had done, like, 3 sets of actors and that Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi had been the last set. Because I think it would have made the passage of time a lot clearer. Because another thing that feels, like, really off is that when Heathcliff leaves and there's that, like, it's supposed to be like 5 years or something that he's gone, but it happens in like 5 minutes or something. And so you don't have any sense of like, oh, time has passed and things have changed. It's like, oh, he left and now he's back and he has a new haircut. So you're like, okay, I guess. He has a new haircut. He's got an earring and a gold tooth. But Margot Robbie just got like Dracula hair and modern day clean girl makeup as soon as she got married. But that's not enough to really make a significant difference here, you know what I'm saying? So I wish that they had done 3 pairs of actors. Like The Crown. Love the casting in The Crown. It's so fun. It's so fun. I love it. Every single, like, 2 seasons, and they change the actors, and I need to finish that show. I never finished it. My friend Lucy, she got a passport photo, and she looks exactly like Elizabeth Debicki, the girl who played the second Diana, the older Diana. It was great. It was a beautiful photo. She couldn't use it for a passport, though. So that's my thoughts on Margot Robbie. And then, though I did like the costumes and the sets. There's like no method to the madness. And there's a great video on this by Karolina Zabrowska, who does costuming videos and like historical fashion and stuff. And listen, I love historical fashion. I just did a huge research on medieval armor for a school project because I don't know if you know, but I'm in art school. I love anything that has to do with like costumes and clothing and historical fashion. But I understand that this movie is not going for period accuracy, and I have decided to let go of that. I don't care. Some people care, and that's fine. I don't care. But I think what Karolina Zabrowska explains well is like so many of these costumes, they are period accurate in a way, but they're like you get some that are period accurate and then some that are period accurate from like other countries, and then you get 2020's realness, and then whatever the fuck that stupid see-through negligee nightgown thing was, burn it! You couldn't because it's plastic. Oh, I hate it. There's no reason behind those choices, which renders them like, it's just empty. I think costuming serves as such a tool to give us a look into a character's psyche. And there's another great video that I'll recommend that I love. It's Bernadette Banner's video on the Game of Thrones costuming. And she touches on a little bit, like, one of the things that's coming to mind is how Sansa adapts the way that she dresses based on kind of who she idolizes and who's around her. So she when she moves to King's Landing, she's kind of dressing in the style of Cersei, and then as it goes on, she starts dressing more like Marjorie Tyrell. Love her. Maybe I'll do a Game of Thrones video. I love Game of Thrones. I'm reading the books, bro. It's like watching the show all over again, but better. It's better because I'm reading. Yay! So you kind of get this glimpse into her as a character and her motivations of like wanting to fit in, wanting to aspire at what she's aspiring to be. You know, her costumes work really well in that way. And I also think that a more recent example and a much more similar, like, gothic example is Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein that came out last year. The costuming is beautiful, especially Elizabeth's costumes, and they give you a glimpse into who she is as a character and what she likes and her connection, I feel like, especially to the other characters, including the creature. A similar thing with like Victor and all the pops of red he has that are kind of calling back to his mother. Wow, it's me from the future. I wanted to add a little segment in here because I did a little bit more research after when I was looking for photos of Elizabeth's costumes, and I came across this British Vogue article that went over some of the costumes and their inspirations. I was also looking at photos, and so I wanted to like explain some more of the connections between the two. So Elizabeth's wedding dress, or like the bandage dress, because the arms are covered in these bandages, and it's like a direct link to the creature and his arm bandages that he had as well. She has many dresses that are based on nature and insects especially, and her character is very interested in science and insects. There are many scenes of her with beetles and butterflies and everything. I also saw in this British Vogue article that some of her necklines apparently match some portraits of Mary Shelley, which I thought was beautiful. And this article also compares some of Victor's costumes to Mick Jagger. So take that as you will. There's so many echoes and there's so many tiebacks, and it's beautiful and dramatic, and it serves a purpose in the story. And I think that that is missing from Wuthering Heights. They are beautiful, they're lovely, it's great. What is the reason for these choices? And it doesn't always have to have a reason, but if none of it has a reason, then I'm like, you are lazy. You don't care, you know? And I think that you could kind of like they're cleaning windows over there on a really tall building, I think. That's so interesting. I would love that job. I feel like it'd be so scary, but imagine you go up in the little thing, you clean the windows, and you see the world from above. Anyway, as I was saying, you could take a scalpel to these kind of visuals and these beautiful, like, whimsical choices that they've made and take them off and put them on another movie, and it would be great. It would be beautiful. But because it's attached to this movie that, first of all, it takes itself so seriously. Like, this is like a tragedy, drama extraordinaire. Like, everything sucks and we all die. And because it's supposed to be based on this, like, really intense book with political commentary, and it doesn't work. It's beautiful, but it's empty. Everything in this movie felt so unearned, especially in the second half. There's so much, like, drama and intensity with no build-up and no basis. Like, for example, in the first, like, 50 minutes or so, after Kathy stumbles back to Wuthering Heights, she's been in the Muir, she had her orgasm interrupted by Jesus the Lordy, and he licked her cum fingers. And she comes back to Wuthering Heights, and her dad is, like, stumbling around in the yard, and he's like, "Don't look at me like that! I'm ill!" And she just, out of nowhere, in this, like, shrill, high-pitched voice goes, "We are all ill because of you! Because of you!
Not me, not Hermione, you!"
And then she walks into the house. And my friend, who I'm sitting there with, she goes, "What?" Because it just came out of nowhere. You see some scenes of Kathy with her father as a child, and obviously there's this power imbalance because she's like a tiny little baby, and he's a big, stupid man. She can't do anything, right? She's scared of him. And that child would never yell that at him. But you don't get any scenes of her with him as an adult, so we don't see how the dynamic has potentially changed, or maybe it's the same, and this is like a big moment for her because she's finally, like, you know, clapping back to him. But we don't know, because all of a sudden she's just, like, pissed as hell. You sort of get the feeling that, like, oh, this is, like, some breaking point, but there's not enough lead up to it that it makes sense. Another weird example is Nellie's whole deal. And I haven't read the book, and I did kind of learn that there is, like, a famous article from the 50s. It positions Nellie as the villain of the story.
I actually believe that the nurse is the villain of the story.
That's some crazy foreshadowing, Emerald Fennel, and I don't like that, which could be true. And it's definitely true in this movie, but I don't think there's any reason for it. So in this movie, Nellie is a companion to Catherine, as far as I understand. So she's paid to be there. She's an employee. She's paid to be there and to hang out with Kathy. And then Heathcliff comes along and Kathy doesn't want to hang out with her anymore. And that makes her so mad that she decides she's going to ruin everybody's fucking life and kill Catherine. Like, lead to her death, basically. And I just don't agree. I just don't feel like that's warranted. I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can say that. She admits at the end that she meant everything she did and said, meaning she, like, meant to cause Kathy's death or whatever. And what makes this worse is that, like, she's one of two characters of color. There is not a shred of likability in this woman. And then at the very end, this final tragedy of Heathcliff and Kathy, you know, she dies and they never get to be together. Who gives a fuck? Like, they already had all that secret sex and they're in love, which is a whole nother thing. You cannot convince me that they're in love because they had sex like 6 times or whatever. I know that they were friends as children. He's been gone for 5 years, okay? They're different people. They grew up. You can't just have a bunch of sex and then say you're in love. Like, they haven't had a conversation since he came back. It's dumb. It's fine. But this, like, final tragedy of, like, oh, they never got to be together and they're so in love, it doesn't feel earned. It doesn't feel like this tragic thing of, like, they're always longing for each other and they never get to have it. It's dumb. Can I say it? It's dumb. There's also this great scene where Jacob Elordi does husband cosplay because he missed Catherine's death. I'm just gonna roll the clip. It's really... it's golden.
Get the doctor, for God's sake! Somebody get the doctor! You're all right. You are fine. No, no, do not go. It is not terrible.
Now we're gonna get into, I got tired. So now I'm gonna get into the more, serious stuff, you could say, and I'm gonna read my Letterboxd review because it kind of sums things up really well. So, I think that enjoying this film requires you to divorce it from the novel, which is hard to do considering it's really based on it, according to the opening credits. The really crucial aspects of the book, the commentary on race and class, are completely missing here. Like, not a shred in sight. And the fact that it was taken out in favor of a lukewarm sexual affair feels incredibly disappointing. Emerald Fennel seems to want us to turn our brains off and swallow a big mouthful of book talk tropes with pretty pictures, and at this point in our world, that's not something that feels empowering or inspiring. Shouldn't we aspire to engage in multifaceted media that has sexy romance and interesting political commentary? And I won't harp on the colorblind casting and the odd changes to the story and the unnecessary shock value sexual aspects, but genuinely, why was this movie made? What does it have to say? How does it enrich us? It's not even sexy, for fuck's sake! The yearning and longing and sexual tension was miles more interesting than the sex. It was like uber long drawn out porn, and I loved it when he lifted her up by the corset, okay? But it just leaves me feeling like Emerald Fennel set up this crazy BDSM dark sexual romance, and now she's giggling in a corner saying, "Isn't that crazy? I can't believe we did that. It's literally so scandalous, lol." And it's the most vanilla sex you've ever seen. Like, give me an on-screen orgasm and class commentary, I beg. And that's what I have to say on that. And, you know, I could end the video there with that, like, nice little succinct thing, but I'm gonna talk for another 40 minutes, probably, because I like to talk. Starting off with my first point, and I'm gonna read a little bit more from my notes at this point, because I wrote down what I wanted to say, and I want to say it, okay? Emerald Fennel has been really on her journey of saying that this is, like, inspired by Wuthering Heights, and it's her own version, and that's fine, okay? That's fine. But if you use the exact same characters, with the exact same romantic plot, and your opening credit scene says, based on the novel by Emily Bronte. Did you know it's pronounced Bronte? Because I did not. You cannot escape comparisons to the book. And this idea that we should just, like, pass it off and be like, oh, well, you guys shouldn't be so precious about the book. I haven't even read the book, okay? I don't care. But if you're going to tie yourself to the book, you're opening yourself up for criticism. I'm not going to waste all of our time going through, like, all the details that she left out for no apparent reason except that she wanted to. But I will go over the big one, which is Heathcliff. Like everybody who came before me and everyone who will come after, I'm legally obliged to tell you that Heathcliff in the book is a man of color. Yes, the book is not specific about his race, and yes, the understanding of race was different in the time that Emily Bronte wrote this, but the book is clear that it is about his struggle and Kathy's struggle in relation to that, with him being a person of color in a world that is not set up for people of color to succeed. Like, that is central to the book. That's what's keeping them apart. And as you've probably noticed, Jesus Elordi over here is in fact a white man. An Australian at that, okay? So yes, I think going into this movie, nobody had, like, high hopes for it following closely to the plot of the book. Red. You could be on your hands and knees with a magnifying glass on that red floor, and you would not find a single speck, okay? There's, like, one mention of Heathcliff being a servant, one, and he does, like, a little bit of work, like, he's, you know, Jesus Elordi, and Jesus was a carpenter too, okay? Jesus was a carpenter too, listen. But it's not a big enough barrier that it needs to be for Fennel's idea of this, like, big forbidden love. And putting aside the fact that it removes any teeth from the story and the plot and the way that Bronte intended it, it makes the love story, like, empty. It makes this tension of, like, oh, we can't be together. It's like, well, yes, you can. I don't believe that for a second. It's not a hot take to say that this is, like, problematic. And I think that the omittance of the political commentary plus this female empowerment narrative that I feel like is being pushed on it makes it even worse. I think that Fennel wants us to find this movie really sexy. She wants us to think this is so hot. She wants us to think it's, like, scandalous. She wants us to just go along for the ride. And it's this idea that women love smut and they're all reading it, and it's empowering for them to get a whole smutty movie on the big screen, and everyone's creaming their pants watching Jesus Elordi and Barbie doing it in the carriage. And on top of that, if you don't like it, you hate women and you hate women's things. And, like, yes, but, like, yes, it is empowering for women who have so often been the subject of sexually explicit material without their participation. It is empowering for women to kind of take back that story and consume media that is made by and about women enjoying sex and having a lot of sex and being picked up by the bodice and having your cum fingers licked. You know? Pop off Queen Slay. Like, that's great. But what is not empowering is the idea that this stuff can only exist at the cost of a meaningful message. you know? It feels like this movie is patting us on the head and saying like, silly, silly child, I have seen behind your eyes, and there is nothing there. Have a porn. Listen, I contain multitudes, okay? I can handle political commentary alongside my smut. And I'll point out that, like, so many of these romantasy... Wow, I'm getting heated. I need to calm down. So many of these romantasy genre book talk books that get criticized, they often have a significant element of politics or adventure. Like, sure, sometimes it's like, you know, we're walking on a razor-thin plot, okay? It's wet tissue paper being drawn over the smut. But even something like A Court of Thorns and Roses, Iron Wing, Fourth Wing, whatever the fuck it's called, I have not read it, but again, big video essay watcher, I know a little bit of the plot. These stories are like multi-book, thought-out sagas that talk about war and suffering and poverty and like the struggles of the main characters in new and dangerous situations and like how they grow and they change alongside a lot of fucking sex, bro. A lot. I think the two can mix. I think we've proven the two can mix. And I think this idea that the two are like mutually exclusive, or that people, and more specifically it feels like women, won't like Wuthering Heights 2026 because it's not all sex, is really disappointing and insulting, honestly. Like, it feels sexist that there's this assumption that like, oh, well, it's like, it's women's media, you shouldn't criticize it. Like, women just want to have fun, we're just girly pop, like, we just want to see Jacob Elordi pick up Margot Robbie by the bodice. I think that we should ask for more, you know? Everything is political. And sex and sexuality are so political, and they've always been tied up in politics. Whether that's female sexuality or queer sexuality, all of these things, like, they're always tied up in the politics of the moment. And they're so explicitly tied up in Bronte's book that I think that we should expect more and ask for better. Like, it's just really disappointing. And also, if you're gonna give us a movie that's all about having sex, like, do a good job. I'll say it. None of it was sexy, okay? None of it was sexy. It pisses me off that Fennel talked this big talk about it being like this sadomasochistic, dark story, and she put that stupid shock value hanging scene and the pony play, and they built up this whole thing, and then she can't even show an on-screen orgasm. Are you kidding me? Kathy and Heathcliff have like the most boring sex imaginable, and I was like rolling my eyes out of my head when she said her stupid line about like, oh yeah, Edgar, like, he does things to me that...
You would be shocked at the things Edgar dares to do.
Would I?
It would make you blush. It would make even Joseph and Zilla blush.
Like, they were going at it pony style, and you're getting head on a table. You are not the same, okay? You are not the same. Seriously, like... Just, like, commit to the sexual aspects of your framing, or go home. Nobody asked you to make this movie. No one. So stop fucking around, pull your pants up, and do a good job. And it's shocking that the most disturbing and shocking scene was a child whipping. Hey, you said that this was going to be a dark sexual movie, and when I was most uncomfortable, actually when I was most uncomfortable was when Jacob Elordi was like pushing his fingers in that egg. No thank you. I thought he was going to lick the egg fingers. That scene where Heathcliff's getting whipped for the first time, it's brutal. And that's bad that the most disturbing scene in your movie is a child being whipped when your movie is about people having crazy sex. Okay? Okay? And that stupid hanging scene, I'm not even going to talk about it because it pisses me the fuck off. It should have been axed, and she should go to jail. Here is my hot take. This is how I would have done it, okay? This is how I would have done it. Nobody's asking for that, but I'm gonna tell you anyway, okay? First of all, if you cut off that stupid hanging scene, that's gone. That doesn't exist in my world. That's stupid and dumb. I don't like it, okay? It didn't need to be there. It's not happening. So you take off that, and then you keep the movie exactly how it is, and you cut it off at 50 minutes, okay? And I watched it again. I watched the first 50 minutes, and then I stopped, and it was great, okay? It would have been a fine movie. It could have maybe even been good, okay? It would have at least been better than the full length. And this is why, okay? At 50 minutes, this is when Jesus Elordi leaves because he overheard Kathy's saying it would degrade her to marry him, blah, blah, blah. He's, like, leaving her alone to regret her decision and marry Edgar and be rich and unhappy. And so you still get the fun costumes, the fun sets. You get Isabella's shocked reaction gif. And you get Jesus Elordi and Margot Robbie's romance. The build up from, like, child to teen. You get that sexual awakening. And then it leaves you with this, like, heartbreaking cliffhanger, right? You get the childhood, you get the sexual awakening, suddenly they see each other in another light. You understand that this could have been the beginning of a beautiful romance, and then you get the crushing reminder that life sucks ass and everybody dies. And I'm gonna make 2 crazy comparisons to some really, really beautiful media, and I don't want you to judge this media because I'm comparing it to Wuthering Heights 2026 by Emerald Fennel. But in my mind, this is kind of where my mind went. And that's to say that it shares a little bit. A 50-minute version of this would share a little bit with Past Lives and Gideon the Ninth. Okay? Gideon the Ninth because it's for this, like, weird entanglement between 2 teenagers that are kind of crazy and temperamental and kind of hate each other. Right? And if you don't know the plot of this book, like, please just go read it. It's one of the best sci-fi fantasy books I've ever read. It's lesbian necromancers in space. Okay? Do I need to say more? Go read it. Kathy and Heathcliff, they also share this. They obviously share some kind of love for each other. They've been children in this, like, traumatic environment, right? And that kind of builds up into this, like, weird entanglement. And they're both, like, temperamental and mean and mischievous. And I think their sexualities, like their respective sexualities, are really tied up in each other. But it's in this, like, complicated way that lingers and never gets resolved. And it's very, like, unspoken, which is much like Gideon and Harrow's kind of undefined, unspoken relationship that's, like, super intense and also nothing and also everything. So, and then Past Lives, you get that, like, really crushing regret and sense of how things could have been so different but ultimately never will be. And, like, if you stopped it at the 50-minute mark, Heathcliff is gone. And we as an audience, like, we don't know if he's ever coming back. We assume that he's not. He's gone forever. And it's that, like, a difference of, like, 20 minutes. Actually, a difference of, like, 20 seconds would have solved everything. It's, like, so, at least for me, like, that is such a strong feeling. And I think if you would cut it at 50 minutes, you're left with that emptiness. You know, Catherine is left in this bleak life where she has to marry this man she doesn't love, knowing full well that she loves this other person who she could have been with, but missed by 20 seconds. It's really fucking sad, okay? And I think that a 50-minute version of Wuthering Heights would have been, like, artsy and weird, and it would have left the audience with a really strong emotional experience. And maybe that's true about the full-length version, but at least you wouldn't have to sit through 2 hours and 8 minutes of it, okay? Those are some of the more specific reasons that I didn't like it, but I think that the biggest reason I don't like this movie is like the same reason that I don't like Marvel movies, and the reason I didn't like the last season of Stranger Things. It doesn't need to be made. That's the problem. And this is, like, strays far into the realm of my own personal opinion. I think it gets really hard when we're looking at IP and kind of reinvigorating it. And, like, Stranger Things 5, for example, I understand that it had to be made because we have to wrap up the story, but it's kind of devoid of the creative inspiration that really drove those first few seasons. And, like, Disney live actions are the same. There's no person behind these movies, right? That's with a burning story to tell anyone. It all starts from this, like, capitalistic drive to make money, merchandise, however, and then they work backwards from there. And so it's just these, like, empty husks of story. It all comes back to capitalism. What can I say? It's like the endless rehashing of stories over and over, and it's so tiresome and empty. Like, I think it's not a hot take to be like, we're sick of it. I mean, some people eat it up, and I'm side-eyeing you a little bit. So I just, like, I feel like, I don't know why Emerald Fennel couldn't have taken these characters and changed their names and made a beautiful, like, Wuthering Heights AU fanfic movie. You know, I think that I would have had less problems with it if it was like that. It's still not a good movie, but I think it would have been less bad if she wasn't battling against the framing that she set up for herself. She's limiting her success because there's expectations on it, whether she wants it or not. Like, it's inherited. And there's, like, just no meaningful reason that I can think for her to make this movie and make it in the way that she did And it, like, makes the movie feel empty, you know? Like, a good piece of art needs a mix of, like, earnestness and skill in making art. But at its core, it needs someone who is, like, bursting with a story to tell and needs to get it out. And unfortunately, like, all that I hear from Fennel about why she made this movie is, like, she wants to see Jesus Elordi on the big screen and pretend that it's, like, a dark and twisted, sexy fantasy. She's, like, fulfilling this teenage fantasy or whatever. There's nothing there. There's just nothing there. I think she's taken this rich source material and she's just, like, diluted it down to its least interesting parts, you know? And it's really disappointing. So, to wrap it up, I think where Fennel, like, really does succeed is in her visuals and her visual style and this kind of whimsy that her work has. Like, I remember watching Saltburn and actually really liking it because it was so beautiful and it felt, like, magical and feverish, putting all the weird stuff aside, obviously. And Wuthering Heights is similar. I think it's, like, easily one of the most beautiful movies I've seen in a long time, and it has, like, such a strong stylistic voice, but a movie is not made on visuals alone. And there is a part of me that, like, I feel like throwing my hands up and saying, is it really that deep? Like, maybe this doesn't matter. Because I liked parts of the movie. I had a good time watching the first half. And maybe we should just let people have things, you know? But ultimately, like, it does matter. The things that we consume, they shape our critical eye and our understanding of the world. And it's like practice on how to be thoughtful and to notice things and to make connections. And I want to resist this idea that we should just sink into this world of, like, lifeless, empty stories. My roommate, she's studying liberal arts, and so she's read a lot of these classic philosophical texts, and she really understands a lot of the ideas that have shaped the way that our society works. And one of my favorite things is to discuss media with her, because she's able to make these, like, really interesting connections between the things that we're watching, or the books that we're reading, and the ways that we think and connect as a society. And I think a good piece of art should challenge its viewers to engage deeply with itself and with the world around it and the world that has produced it, because no art exists in a vacuum. Everything is based on the maker's experiences. And, like, this is something we talk about in my art history class, which is about female Canadian painters. And the fact that while a piece of art may not be intended to be a comment on the female experience, if it is made by a woman, it is baked into the art. It tells us something about the female experience, whether that's the content of the art or not. The space in which she made this, the context in which she made this, the time period, the laws. Like, one of the things we talk about is, because I'm living here in Quebec, a lot of the laws around women and what they were allowed to, what they could and couldn't do, they changed at a much slower rate than the rest of Canada, and that led to different ways of making art in Quebec. There was explorations of, like, the grid, and breaking out of the grid, and ways that showed up. It's like that mix of the circumstance and the people. And this is true here, where, like, this piece of media, it doesn't come out of nowhere. First of all, like, Emily Bronte's piece of media does not come out of nowhere. That is based on the world that she lived in and the things that she saw and experienced. And then to take that and to make another piece of art in our current political landscape, that is based on Emerald Fennel's experiences and her reading of Wuthering Heights, which her interpretation is going to be based on the way that she grew up and the things that she experienced and saw. And so none of this can be divorced from the politics that surround it, the world that made it. And I don't think that we should try and do that. I think that that is something interesting to engage with and to understand, and it helps us understand the ways that we see the world and the ways that our experiences translate into our own creations, our art, our whatever it is that you're doing, you know? And I think that we should strive for media that is multifaceted and complicated and sometimes hard to understand and sometimes easy to understand. Things that are visually striking and sexy and thoughtful and has something to say. I was gonna say, like, if you want to watch something dumb, at least watch Shrek. But I can't even say that because Shrek is, like, so heartfelt and earnest and it's miles better than this. Truly, what the fuck was this movie, bro?
Goodbye, darling.
And that's all I have to say about that. I think I'm going to make more videos when I have things to say. I make music. Check out my YouTube channel, guys. There's like 3 videos there. But my next video definitely is going to be the 50-minute edited version of Wuthering Heights, so I hope you're excited for that. Bring your popcorn, wear your most reddest clothing, and bring your gal pals to your home theater. Oh my god. I had a great line and it won't work. Okay, well, it went like this. It was when I was talking about how unearned things were. I said, overall, you can't sink your teeth into anything. Nothing really matters. Anyone can see. Nothing really matters. Nothing really matters to me. Bye!
Emerald, congratulations on Saltburn. I mean, what a cultural and box office hit. Thank you, yeah. What would you like to do next? I was thinking of remaking Wuthering Heights. Oh, why? It's already had like 2 or 3 remakes already. I know, but there's a scene in there which really speaks to me. Oh, for fuck's sake, Emerald. It's not what I think it is it? It's the grave scene. There's a grave scene in Wuthering Heights as well, isn't there? There's a scene in which somebody gets into somebody else's grave. I just love it. Can we get Barry Keoghan in again? No, we've already cast Jacob Elordi. No, just get Barry in for the grave scene. I love the way he looks when he's intertwined with the corpse.
Nobody will know that I got up and I made food and I ate the food and then I came back and I bumped the camera. Nobody will know.